As you can see, we are joined by President of Hockey Operations and General Manager Chuck Fletcher and Flyers head coach Alain Vigneault. A few reminders before we get started. Please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen if you wish to ask either of them a question. Please remember to unmute yourself when prompted, and please direct your question to either Chuck or Alain. Any questions in French we'll take at the end. So let's get started. Sam Carchidi, you're on with Chuck and Alain. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, AV. This is for you. I think it was last week that you said that you had a pretty good idea for the reason behind the slide, and you wouldn't reveal it until after the season. Can you go into that now a little bit, please?
I think I have a couple of theories. After starting the season where we got off results-wise to a good start, mainly due to we had some real solid goaltending. Our team started to play better. Our goaltending slipped a little bit. COVID hit us, and after COVID, all we basically did was play games and not practice. And I think this group, because we've got veteran players, just a small group of players in that middle age frame of 27, 28, and a lot of younger players. Those younger players, when the game slips a little bit or we're not quite executing the way we need to have success, you have to practice. And we didn't have any practice time. So I'm not saying that's the reason. A lot of things happen, but I'm going to need some time to reflect on it. But I do think that played a part in our game slipping and our season going the way it did.
Sam, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, this is for AB as well, I guess. You know what? This is for Chuck. I'm sorry, it's more of a Chuck question. Chuck, you're probably looking for a right-handed defenseman as your number one priority. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what would you say your number two priority is in the offseason?
Yeah, I think we have quite a few priorities, Sam. And looking outside the organization, certainly we could upgrade. I think everywhere, up front, defense. Certainly, we're going to have to take a look at our situation in goal, which is kind of been a constant struggle here for years. So we have different areas we have to look at, but we also need a lot of our young players to be better. And I would say, really, with the exception of Joel Farabee, I would say the majority of our young players either plateaued or took a step back this year. So that's a big concern for me. Since 2014, this franchise has put a lot of time and effort into drafting and developing young players. And frankly, for us to take a step forward, we're going to need that group of players to take on, a bigger role and play better and help us win games. We're going to have to look outside the organization, but certainly, it's difficult to replace a whole team. You're going to need your young players to take a step and be better. And they have a big summer ahead of them. So we're hopeful that, as things normalize and this off season, hopefully it's easier for many of these young players to skate and to train and to prepare more normally than they maybe were able to do last off season. And we're hopeful that we'll see an energized group of players come training camp.
Charlie O'Connor, you're on with Chuck and Alain. Go ahead.
Hey, Charlie.
Yeah. This is for Chuck. Alain mentioned the impact of the lack of practice time in March in particular. I guess my question is, obviously that was a challenge, but on some level, when a team goes into a slide like that, someone kind of to salvage the season has to step up and, kind of halt that slide. And I guess my question is that because that didn't happen, does that give you concerns about the mix of players in the locker room that no one was able to kind of halt that for you guys?
I think that's something we'll take a look at. I don't know that sitting here questioning our leadership. I thought our leaders played hard this year. And if you look at the last couple of months, I mean, nobody played better than Claude Giroux. Sean Couturier played really hard, and his line carried our team early in the season. Jake Voracek, I think, led our team in scoring again, or tied for the lead. So a lot of these players that have been here a while, I thought did their part. Hockey's a team sport. You have 20 players on the ice. It's, I don't know that one guy giving a speech in a dressing room or doing something can really turn a season around. And we had a tough March. There's no question. We had 17 games that month. I've never been on a team that played 17 games in a month. I think I've been on a team that had 16 maybe once, but typically you're playing 15 games a month. So it was tough. There wasn't a lot of time to reset. A lot of other teams went through it, and it's probably a harder time of the year to go through when you're struggling. You don't have much time to practice or reset, as AV mentioned, but I'm not sure that leadership is the first thing I'm looking at in this group, but we'll take some time over the next few weeks here to look at every angle and find a way to plug the holes we need to plug.
Dan Gelston, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
Hi, AV. Has anything that's happened this year affected your desire to want to come back next year and finish this out?
I came to Philly to win a Stanley Cup. I told Chuck, last week or the week before when we were officially eliminated, that sort of felt like I've let everyone down here, from him to ownership, to our fans, to our players. After the start that we had, got the team playing better, and then, like I mentioned, goaltending and COVID and no practice time, and I wasn't able to put the ship back on track. I'm going to need some time, obviously, on a personal level to reflect on the season. Like the rest of society, it's our first pandemic that we go through. There's obviously some things reflecting on that we might want to change how I handled and how I did things. I'm going to need, on a personal level, I'm going to need some time here to get the emotion out of the way and analyze this properly. Another thing I did say to Chuck, because talking about our young players and just Joel Farabee, taking strides. The difference between Joel Farabee, an American who stayed in the States and was able to train, and our Canadian players, all the ones that went back to Canada. I mean, G had a good year, more experience. Coots, in my estimation, had a good year, but didn't have a Coots type season like he had with me last year. And if I look at all the other players that went to Canada, they struggled, whether it's because of lack of training possibilities, lack of skating possibilities. But one of my questions, and we're meeting the players this afternoon, is what are you doing this summer? And if things stay the way they are right now in Canada, they're going to have to make some adjustments to their summer plans, because this is just our team. I can't reflect on throughout the NHL, but our team, the Canadian players that went back to Canada, had a challenging time.
Rob Parent, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
Chuck, I guess this is related to the last question. You've invested heavily in the coaching staff. You have 3 guys who are former or current NHL head coaches. What does that leave you with when you see so many young players taking a step back this year?
Well, that's why, to be honest with you, I'm happy we have this experienced coaching staff. I mean, they've, AV and Mike Terry and Mike Yeo, Ian LaPerriere, they've seen a lot of different scenarios during their time in the league. And And I'm fully confident that, they'll have the best approach for how to bring these kids back. And some of it has to fall on the players. It's up to the players to be prepared to come into camp next year. And as AV alluded to, a couple of those kids that did go back to Canada, I remember speaking with them in October, November, and they were having a hard time getting ice time. They're having a hard time. Gyms were shut down. Some of them, I think, had some adjustments to make and were having a tough time doing the training that they normally do. So, our expectation is they'll be able to find a better path to train this off season. So certainly there's some personal responsibility for every one of us in terms of how we perform and how we do our job. But having a veteran coaching staff, gives me comfort that we're going to find the right solutions to get these players back to where we need to get them to.
Anthony Sanfilippo, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
Yeah, my question for this question's for you. You mentioned about potentially doing things a little bit differently based off of how some of the things you learned this year. Is there a silver lining in the sense that you didn't have the practice time that you had, so you learned a little bit how each of these guys processes information as far as the way that they talk to you or the way that they listen to you or looking at video, or do they actually need physical time on the ice? Is there something that you get out of that and learn from that?
Well, there's no doubt that knowing your players more is beneficial. You know what makes them tick, what can help them and what is not going to help them. But at the end of the day, what I need, Chuck can't give me, society can give me though. I need a normal season. Need people to go out and get vaccinated so that we can have a normal season next year. I've been here 2 years and we haven't had one of those. I want guys coming into camp having trained in a normal way during the summer. I want to go through a normal camp. I want to go through a normal season that's 82 games worth. And I want to go through normal playoffs where you play in front of your fans, you feel the energy, you feel the passion. You go on the road, tight-knit group, you try and win on the road. Chuck can't give me a normal season, but society can if we do our part. And hopefully we can all get there for next year.
Jordan Hall, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
Hi, Elaine. Hi, Chuck. Chuck, this is for you. You said you can probably upgrade everywhere on your roster, but if you had to pinpoint the most glaring hole in your roster, where do you think it is, and do you think you can address it this offseason?
Well, we'll certainly try. I mean, we're going to take time here over the next month to meet with our group, and we'll analyze everything between now and then, and we'll have good meetings. And look, we finished 31st in the league in goals against, and I'd say the last 15, 16 years for this franchise, we've had a tough time keeping the puck out of our net consistently. Since I've been here, we were 27th in the league defensively, I believe, my first year. And last year we climbed to 7th. And this year we fell to 31st. So, I mean, I think it's clear that when you give up the number of chances and the number of goals that we did this year, you're going to have a tough time winning hockey games. So we need to, improve our ability to keep the puck out of the net, and everything that goes with that is what we'll look to do this offseason.
Adam Kimmelman, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. This is for Chuck. This sort of relates to that last question. When you analyze, Carter Hart, where do you see the areas of improvement that he needs, and where is he medically as far as the health of his knee?
The second part, I believe he's fine. He's been on the ice a few days, and I think he's basically back to full health. And and in terms of the first part, I'm not a goalie coach or a goalie expert. I don't know that's for me to speak to, but I think Carter's no different than a lot of 22-year-old individuals in every walk of life, whether you're in college or in working or in sports. It's, he's a young man that's finding his way. We've asked a lot out of Carter. He's a precocious talent. He's climbed the ladder very quickly, and clearly this year didn't go the way he had hoped and the way we had all hoped. But but yet there's a lot of talent there. And I think our expectation is that Carter will make the adjustments necessary and come back and be the goalie that we all want him to be and that he expects to be. And he's a top end talent, and it's a tough league. It's a tough league, and but he'll make the adjustments he has to make, and he'll return to form.
Bill Meltzer, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is for Elaine. Elaine, last season the Flyers were 7th offensively in goals per game. This year, going into March, you guys were 4th in goals per game. So how much did the goals against average for the team, how much of a cumulative effect did that kind of have to drag down the offense over time?
Well, there's no doubt it was a very challenging season in the aspect that, we were chasing most of the games. And at the end of the day, I mean, that's on me. It's on the, team preparation. And the players have their responsibility also in the sense that they have to get themselves, in the right mental state to go out there and be able to execute and make the right plays. But our starts made it very challenging. This was always chasing the game is a challenge. When you score the first goal, I think the percentage of you winning that game, I think they're over 70 or close to 75%. So in all aspects, our offense sort of dried up towards the end there, and our defense, as much as I think we improved from the beginning. We weren't giving up as many shots or scoring chances. We just had a hard time keeping the puck out of our net as a team, and then our offensive dried up, and it led at the end of the day, it led to the season that we had.
Charlie O'Connor, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is for Chuck. Chuck, based on what you said, it definitely seems like you guys, want to make some changes, some improvements, to the roster this offseason. But obviously, you've been trying to make improvements, going back to last offseason, and you've noted on a couple occasions the challenges of the stagnant cap and sort of the situation at large. I guess, why do you feel like you'll be able to make those changes this offseason when you haven't been able to make them over the past year?
Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Again, we'll have to look at a few different areas to improve, but I anticipate there being some players available, and we'll have to go out and see if we can add the right player. Certainly last summer we looked at, or last off season, I should say, we looked at a lot of different options, and things in some cases didn't break the way we had hoped. And, in some cases it wasn't the perfect fit for the type of player we were looking for, but we're going to have to be creative and have to find a way to improve where we can.
Wayne Fish, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
Wayne?
Chuck, could you give an update on what players might need surgery and also what players might be going to the World Championships?
I really don't know on either as of right now. Our players will continue doing their medicals later on today and doing some imaging today and tomorrow. So we'll have a better answer on that with respect to off-season surgeries probably over the next few days. And I don't have a full update yet on the World Championships. I know some players were still mulling things over as the season came to an end. So hopefully we'll have a better idea on that too as we meet with the players here over the next day or two.
Sam Carchidi, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
This is for Chuck. Chuck, two-part question. Is Nolan Patrick's season a product of being away from the game for a year and not being able to get into a rhythm? And the second part is, how concerned are you that his tentativeness this year will be tough to overcome down the road?
Well, I think on a positive front, Nolan was able to physically get through the season. And after missing the 18, 19, 20 months, whatever it was, not playing, I think it's a positive. He was able to complete the season. He took some big hits. He played. And so from that standpoint, that's something he can build off of. He wasn't fully cleared to play until just prior to camp. And again, he's one of those players I'm not sure had a normal off season. Personally, I believe there's another level his conditioning and strength can get to as he's healthy and he can train. I think to me, he wasn't skating the same, particularly on back-to-back games. You could see a drop off in his skating. So I do think there's some things that can be improved just by being healthy and having a normal summer. And I think we'll have a better feel for where Nolan Patrick's at into next year. But our expectation is he has a great summer, gets a little stronger, gets a little more explosive, and comes into camp in a type of condition that he wasn't able to achieve this year. And that in turn, hopefully will allow him to play the game at a higher level.
Sam, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I guess this is for AV on Nolan. What did you see from Nolan this year? Did you see too much tentativeness? Did you see him maybe leery of getting hit in the head? And do you think that, I don't know if you've ever talked to him about that, you probably have. Did that kind of interrupt his style and his progression this year?
Well, I didn't know Nolan from before, so this, he didn't play last year. Only thing I can really say is, there's no doubt he had a challenging year. But positive, like Chuck mentioned, is the fact that he was able to play the whole year. So hopefully with a season under his belt and a normal summer of conditioning and training and skating, he comes back next year, and he's a good player for us. This year, there's no doubt, was very challenging.
Ed Benkin, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
Hi, gentlemen. This is for Chuck. Elaine was just talking about all the challenges this year with COVID, and obviously the other teams around the league had to deal with it as well. How differently do you assess the things that went wrong this season as opposed to a normal year with all of the factors with the shutdown and just dealing with the situation with COVID?
Yeah, it was really challenging. Maybe some teams handled it better than we did. I think of the 28, 29 players that were around our team this year, counting the taxi squad, 20 players over the course of the last 5 or 6 months had COVID. We got hit pretty hard at various times, and some players that seem to come back stronger. I give Giroux a lot of credit. Voracek, some of these guys came back and seemed to get better. Other players seemed to struggle. So some players got hit November, December, right before camp, which wasn't ideal for coming into a shortened camp and, in top shape. So look, every team had to deal with it. We did the best we could. It certainly, on a personal note, I will not be tired of living the protocols every day. They were necessary, but it seemed like we spent an awful lot of time making sure that we were following protocols and we were doing things right, and trying to keep people safe and healthy versus managing your team. So it was necessary. It was so important that we played hockey this year. It was great from a league standpoint. We were able to play hockey, but there were definitely a lot of challenges.
We'll take 2 or 3 more questions before moving on to questions in French. Bob Grotz, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
Yeah, this question is for Elaine. Elaine, you've been doing this a long time. What is your level of confidence in, Chuck mentioned some things about Carter Hart. What is your level of confidence with Carter Hart being the guy going forward? And is he going to be, might he have to be one of those guys, the Canadians that should stay in, stateside during the off season?
My level of confidence in Carter is very high. He's a good young man. He probably went through the first time in his life and his career adversity. You have to go through adversity to get better and to grow. And he's gone through that. He's playing the toughest position in hockey. He had only played a small sample, a couple of games his first year, 20 somewhat. A lot of those games meaningless in the sense that the team was out. Last year, played, had a good season, was real good at home, improved on the road. And then we went into the bubble, and he played well for us there. This year got off to a good start, and then it became challenging. He faced some adversity, and I think that adversity is good. It's going to make him better. He's still a very young player playing a real tough position, with the right mindset, the right attitude, the right work ethic moving forward. He's got all the capabilities to become a real solid goaltender. Now he's got to go out and prove it.
Anthony Sanfilippo, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
Yeah, just as a follow-up, AV, to the question I asked earlier, I think I understood what you said, but I just want to make sure that I have it correct and we have it clarified. You talked about all those things that you want, and I think we all want in a regular season, a normal year, right? Everybody training properly. Were you saying that if we don't have that, then maybe this is not something you want to continue to do? Or are you saying that, and that if we do have that, then yes, absolutely 100%, you'll be back behind that then?
No, I came to Philly to win a cup, and I believe that last year we took positive strides. It's not always on the upswing. There's ups and downs to win a cup. You just look throughout history, the Tampa Bays and the Washington, to get to the ultimate goal. There's some struggles. There's some adversity. We're going through some. It's going to make us better. It's going to make our group better. And I haven't changed my mind that I can accomplish my goal. We can all accomplish our goal because Chuck has the same goal I am. Ownership has the same goal. Our fans have the same goal. But we have a lot of work for us ahead of us. And that's what we're going to do. And, we're going to take a little downtime here. This has been a challenging year, but we'll get right back at it here in the next little while and make sure that we're better next year. And I'm just stating that I'd like to coach the Flyers in a normal year. And I'm not with everything going on in the world. I don't want to make it sound like I'm complaining, because people have it. It's been hard on everyone. But I would really enjoy coaching the Flyers in a normal year, in a normal setting.
Our last question, Jordan Hall, you're on with Chuck and Elaine. Go ahead.
Hey, Jordan.
Hi, guys. This is for Elaine. Elaine, kind of to touch on that again, you said in training camp that making the playoffs was non-negotiable, and obviously you guys fell short of that. Just how much does that eat at you? How much does that bother you? And do you feel confident that you can get back to the playoffs next season?
Oh, there's no doubt that it's very hard to take, and like I mentioned, like I feel that I've let people down. I'm going to regroup, analyze, and come back better next year. It didn't go the way we anticipated. It's adversity. If adversity could help Carter Hart become better, adversity could help Alain Vigneault get better, adversity could help the Flyers get better. Maybe the Flyers, have been through a lot of that in the last little while, but it's our job, Chuck and I, to get these players to play up to their full potential, and that's what we're going to do starting next year.
Okay, we have time for one or two questions in French. Luke Jelena, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm there. Thank you very much. So if I can have two questions for Alain. L'an passé, à partir de novembre, vous avez été un des meilleurs clubs de la Ligue. Évidemment, c'est très décevant cette année. Vous êtes un peu victime des circonstances, mais tu sembles prendre ça vraiment personnel aussi. Peux-tu m'expliquer pourquoi?
Ben, disons que comme j'ai mentionné, quand j'ai accepté le poste à Philadelphie, je suis venu ici pour gagner une Coupe Stanley. Et puis, après avoir pris des pas dans la bonne direction l'année passée, cette année, il n'y a aucun doute là, que ce n'est pas allé de la façon qu'on avait anticipé. Je pense aussi que quand tu travailles à l'atteinte d'un but, ce n'est pas toujours une pente montante. Il y a des obstacles, il y a des hauts et des bas. Et puis, si on regarde les formations qui ont gagné Coupe Stanley dernièrement, je pense à Tampa, je pense à Washington, ils ont eu des obstacles à passer à travers et puis ils ont été capables d'atteindre leur objectif ultime. Donc, c'est un petit peu la même chose de notre côté. Ça n'a pas fonctionné comme on voulait. J'aimerais ça être ici à Philadelphie pour avoir une saison normale, une saison où les joueurs viennent au camp d'entraînement après savoir entraîner comme ils sont supposés pendant l'été. Un camp d'entraînement normal avec des matchs hors concours, une saison de 82 matchs et puis les séries devant nos partisans, devant les adversaires, etc. Donc, on va se croiser les doigts que ça va être comme ça l'année prochaine.
Et qu'est-ce qui t'inquiète le plus pour l'an prochain? Tu semblais parler aussi des règles différentes au Canada pour l'entraînement, puis tu as beaucoup de joueurs canadiens.
Ouais, disons que, l'année passée, là, quand les joueurs sont arrivés, là, on n'était pas vraiment au courant là, de ce qu'ils avaient fait, ce qu'ils avaient eu l'opportunité de faire, dépendamment des régions. Là, on est un petit peu plus au courant. Il n'y a aucun doute que nos joueurs canadiens vont vouloir retourner chez eux, aller voir leur famille. Mais si les restrictions restent comme ils sont, mais il va falloir y apporter des ajustements de leur côté. Et puis, on va faire sûr d'être à la page au niveau de ce qu'ils peuvent faire, là, au niveau entraînement, patinage, etc., etc.
Okay, thank you very much, Chuck. Thank you very much, Elaine.
Thanks, guys. Safe face.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, please stay on this line while we bring in Dave Scott. Okay, we are now joined by Dave Scott, Chairman and CEO of Comcast Spectacor and Governor of the Flyers. Before we take questions, Dave, you would like to make a couple opening remarks. Dave, you're still muted. Can we unmute John? Okay.
Got it?
Yep, you're good now.
Okay, Joe, thanks. Yeah, I just want to start by recognizing, Chuck and Elaine. This is my 8th season with the Flyers, and I don't think we've ever had better alignment, looking back is what we have now. As you look at ownership, you look at the front office, you look at the coaching staff. I think, we're in a good place and we'll be ready to move forward. Starting this year, I mean, we were all so optimistic, going in, and now you look at where we were March 1st, I think we were number 1 in the East in the highest point percentage. And then to get knocked out of the playoffs by the Devils, April 29th, if I remember right. It's just not an acceptable level of performance, period. We've all talked about it. We're not happy where we are. There's been frustration, there's been anger, but this is where we sit. And it comes down to accountability. And we're all accountable for the success of this team. And that starts with me, ownership, the front office, the coaching staff, and the players. Where we sit, I can't help but feel for our fans. I've talked about this publicly. They deserve so much more. The city of Philadelphia deserves so much more. We deserve a winning hockey team. So at this point, the season's over, and I think we're picking up our head. I think Elaine said it best. It's time now to reflect a little bit about where we're going. Certainly we have the resources, to put something pretty good together this summer. We have the time. Not easy in a cap world, but I'm confident, Chuck will be creative and we'll figure a way to improve the team as we look to the next season. So with that, I'll open it up, Joe, for any questions.
Yep. Sam Carchidi, you're on with Dave. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Dave. A couple questions. The first one is, you say the Flyers are in a good place right now. What makes you say that?
I still believe, Sam, that that we're a much better team than our record shows, and I think we've got some great talent to build around. We've got the veterans, and we've got these young prospects coming up. I look at what Joel Farabee did last night, getting to 20 goals. I mean, it makes me feel optimistic of where we're heading.
Sam, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, the other one is you said you're confident that Chuck will turn things around. He was very passive in the last year. Why do you think that he will be more aggressive in this offseason?
I think, we talk every day and talk about the challenges and what we need to do about it. And AV, I think, said it a couple times, during this conference, we're all looking to this kind of normalcy, kind of a full 82 game season. And I think it's going to make a big difference. And we know what we need to do. And I think you'll see we'll take the right action.
Charlie O'Connor, you're on with Dave. Go ahead.
Hey, Dave. You said a few minutes ago that the kind of the collapse starting in early March to the end of April was unacceptable. But during kind of that collapse and the struggles, no changes really were made. No major trades. No adjustments to the front office, coaching staff, or anything. How do you guys show that collapse was unacceptable and there is accountability without making adjustments?
I think, Charlie, you got to go back again and look at the last two seasons. I mean, they've been very different for the hockey world. Playing in the bubble last year, we were thrilled to get within a game of, the Eastern Conference Finals, didn't quite make it. This year was a little different, shortened season, playing everybody 8 times. It's just a different format. Some teams did better with it than others. So I really believe that Chuck, he hasn't even had a full 82 game season yet. He came in kind of late in the 18-19 season. Then we hit the pandemic and, I still remember AV coming in last year. We all went to Prague together, we came back. We had a big celebration with ownership and really the front office, the players, the coaching staff, significant others. And he talked about a new era for the Flyers, and we've all bought into that. The pandemic hit, things didn't go the way we wanted to go, but it's a new day now. So I think we'll pick up our heads and lean in and make some adjustments and look forward to the next season.
Anthony Sanfilippo, you're on with Dave. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Dave. And you've said it just recently. This was unacceptable. In the interview you did with the Inquirer, you called it a sad situation and beyond disappointment. I guess the question is, does that make it that much more imperative to get it right this offseason, or risk turning frustration and skepticism that's out there into something that's more like apathy?
We have to get it right. And as you guys know, it wasn't just one thing. Chuck talked to it, AV talked to it. It starts with goaltending, defense, scoring went down. It wasn't just one thing. So it is important to get this thing back on track.
Jordan Hall, you're on with Dave. Go ahead.
Hi, Dave. You mentioned when you hired Chuck Fletcher, or right before you hired him, you wanted someone with a bias for action. And Chuck really showed that action in his first offseason, but obviously had a quieter offseason in the most previous one. Were you disappointed with what he did in the offseason and given how things transpired?
I wouldn't say disappointed. I can tell you it wasn't a lack of effort. There were a lot of conversations with different teams trying to get some things done, and we weren't able to get everything done that we would have liked to have gotten done. Matt Niskanen left a big hole, and we weren't able to fill that hole. So, but I can tell you it wasn't a lack of effort on Chuck's part.
Okay, Dave, thank you very much for your time.
Joe, thanks. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, everyone, that concludes the management portion of these Flyers end of season interviews. Please be advised there is a separate link for the players, which should begin in about 20 minutes, around noon. So everyone, please log off and use that link to log on for the players, which will begin in about 20 minutes. Thanks again. We'll see you then.